little brave. Tip is pretty little right now.
Good morning and welcome on this somewhat hot and humid day. We gather this morning, some of us here in the sanctuary, some via the internet. Hello out there. And I am glad you're here, however it is that you are joining us. If you've been with us just once before or many times, or you come every week, welcome again this morning. And if this is your very first time with us, then a very special welcome to you too. And we're so glad that you have chosen to spend some time with us this morning. For those who might need them, this is very echoey here. For those who might need them, there are listening devices here at the rear of the sanctuary, and one of the ushers can help you with that if you would like to take advantage of that. My name is Myra Aaronson, and I am one of a team of worship associates who have the honor and pleasure of working with our interim minister, the Reverend Susan Suchocki Brown, whom I will miss enormously when her time with us comes to an end at the end of this month. With our Director of Lifespan Ministries, Kirsten Hunter, and the rest of our wonderful staff, some of whom you see, and some of whom work behind the scenes to bring us services each week. We continue to thrive as a community due to the commitment and efforts of all of you here and all of those whose work is both visible and their energy is less public. The gift of music will come to us today from our music director, Johnny Pfeiffer, our pianist, Susan Adams, along with our pickup choir. And you can be in the pickup choir any Sunday. Just come sometime between 9 and 9:30 and learn the songs. The Time for All Ages is offered today by Jen Deldeo, and following that, as always, the children are welcome to stay in the sanctuary with their families or go outside for some activities. If you would like to socialize after the services, we'll be having fellowships time on the portico, and I saw some really nice-looking brownies out there. And speaking of the portico, the beautiful pots of flowers on the steps out there are the gift of our congregant, Beth Fisher, who's an amazing gardener. Now I think we have some announcements.
Good morning, all. Thank you so much for being here this morning. My name is Kirsten Hunter. I'm the Director of Lifespan Ministries. I have one quick announcement, and then Jennifer Wilhelm has one as well for us this morning. And mine is just a reminder to RSVP if you are coming to the celebratory picnic at Great Island Common next Saturday to send off Reverend Susan. There is information right inside the first page of your order of service in the yellow box, and we are trying to get a sense of numbers, so hence the desire for RSVPs. If you could let us know if you're planning to be there so we can get the right amount of food, and we look forward to celebrating on that day with all of you. Jen.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Wilhelm, and I just want to let everyone know that the meditation offering will continue on Tuesday nights from 7 to 7:45 p.m. here downstairs. If you have any questions, come see me after the service. My email address is also in the order of service if you have any questions that way. Thank you.
If you are watching us remotely, I invite you to light your own candle while we light the chalice in the sanctuary. I offer these words from Rumi. Yesterday, I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I am changing myself. Now, please stand as you are. Oops. It was very short. She wasn't quite ready. And the candle seems not ready to light either. I'll say it again. Yesterday, I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I am changing myself. Yay. Now please join me in reciting our mission statement, which is in your order of service and on your screen. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Thank you. So 2 weeks ago, in my opening words, I introduced our July and August theme of covenant. Generally, we think about covenant as something associated with our relationship with other people, the way we interact with a group. But the other day, I came across this tiny piece of paper stuck in my wallet, between my insurance card and bank card. I don't have any memory of when or why I wrote this, but it is in my handwriting, and it seems like I wrote it as a reminder of myself. I'm thinking now this might have been an activity at church because of it's fancy paper. It says, "Stop and think. Does my behavior align with my intention?" Wow. That turned my thinking in the direction of covenant with myself. What does it take to be true to oneself? Reverend Susan will be talking today in the first part of her 3-part sermon of Leaving about reflection, looking at where we have been, reflecting on the journey we have taken individually and as a congregation with her in the past 2.5 years she has been with us. For me, the past 2.5 years have been a time of personal growth, in part due to the influence of her ministry. Thank you. In part due to the Wellspring program I did with Kirsten and a group of women who inspired me. And frankly, in part from my work with a wonderful therapist who I was lucky enough to just happen upon. I have become better able to reflect on my own behavior, to more easily respond rather than react, to, as my scrap of paper says, stop and think. Does my behavior align with my intention? Reflecting on this, I see this as recognizing a covenantal relationship with myself, reminding myself that I have a promise to myself not to be perfect, for what does perfect really mean anyway? And I don't think that perfection is the goal, for if we don't mess up, we don't learn. But a promise to myself to be aware, to be able to reflect, to be open, to stop and think, does or did my behavior or communication align with my intention? Did I move myself or relationship toward or away from connection, comfort, compassion, joy? If not, well, I will have some regrets and feel sad and disappointed in myself, but emotionally beating myself up won't help. I can forgive myself and try to do better next time. This is not always easy, but I think it is worthwhile. It is what I seek for myself, and if you are open to this, it is what I wish for you as well. Now please rise as you are able and join in hymn number 163 in the gray hymnal, For the Earth Forever Turning.
I'm gonna hold it so that I can talk in it, okay? Good morning. I'd like to invite all the children and anybody else who would like to come into this space up here for a story. Hi, Sasha. I think I'm gonna sit down because it's hot. Whew. So, once upon a few years ago, there was a community, and this community was doing pretty well. They had been working on some really difficult things, and you know how when you work your muscles really hard, you get a little shaky, muscles start to feel all wobbly, and you need to rest a little bit so that the muscles can grow and repair? Well, the work that these people had been doing wasn't with their muscles, but it was that same kind of feeling, that feeling of needing a little bit of rest, feeling a little bit of wobble. And just when they thought that they were going to have a good rest time, a germ, nasty germ, started spreading all around the earth. And the people thought, oh boy, here we go, more hard work. I don't know if we're going to be able to do this. We've been working so hard. And they didn't know what they were going to do, but just when they were going to close the doors on their main buildings, a superhero appeared in the doorway. It wasn't a doctor. It was a different kind of superhero. And the people thought, oh, good. We need some help right now. And they said, are you able to get rid of this big germ? The superhero said, no, I don't have that power. And they said, well, our building has a collapsing roof, so do you have superhuman strength to hold it up? And the superhero said, nope, I don't. And they were like, okay, well, welcome. We're so glad you're here. And the superhero said, thank you. All I need is a space for these belongings. And they looked, and there was a big trunk next to the superhero. So the people were like, okay, right this way. And they showed the superhero where she could put her things. And they watched as she started to unpack the trunk. And they took out a cape, which makes sense for a superhero, right? But then she took out another cape and another cape, and they realized she had all these different capes because there was one she wore when she helped firefighters. And there was another, was it red? It was, how did you know that? There was another cape that she wore when she helped people with substance use disorders. And there was another cape she had when she helped retired ministers and their families. And it went on and on. There were all these capes, and she took very good care of them. She hung them neatly because she used these capes still. And so she wanted to take good care of them. That was pretty impressive. And so the people kept asking, like, do you have, like, X-ray vision? The superhero was like, no, I don't. But as the weeks and months went on, they started to see what the special powers were that this person had. So they didn't have supersonic hearing ability, but they were very excellent at listening. And hearing and listening are a little similar, but there's an important difference. This person was a very, very, very powerful listener. And then another super skill this superhero had was every week she would ask, what do you need and how can we help? And that doesn't sound like a lot, but there's not really a lot that's more helpful in difficult times than that. And so the weeks and the months and even years went on. And the superhero had told them when she arrived, I will stay until you don't need me anymore. And eventually, there came a time when it was almost time for the superhero to leave. The superhero didn't just vanish. Like sometimes in movies, the superhero, or like in Mary Poppins, sometimes the hero just like leaves and then the people go about their business. But this superhero even had the superpower of leaving the right way. And so they spent the time making sure they tied up all the loose ends and saying proper goodbyes. And when the time was right, the superhero packed up carefully all their capes, put them in their trunk, said their farewells, and the people felt stronger and ready for their next adventures, and the superhero was ready for their next adventures. So, Reverend Susan has been with us for over 2 years now, and she has helped us with a lot of those same kinds of things that the superhero did. And I mean, I don't think Reverend Susan would want me to call her a superhero. She's very similar to the person in that story, though. I bet she has a few capes. So it is almost time for Reverend Susan to go at the end of this month. And so this is the time where we'll reflect on all the things that we've done together with Reverend Susan and think about the last things we need to do before she moves on, and we move on. So, for now, I'd invite you to come outside and work on a project with me.
Each week at the Offertory, we combine our resources to support South Church, the building, the staff, the congregants, and the greater community. In an effort coordinated by our social justice associates, each month we share our collection with a different nonprofit organization. And this month we are supporting Seacoast Family Promise. So these organizations normally send someone to speak with us one Sunday per month, but they were not able to do that, so they have asked me to share this description of what they do. For over 16 years, Seacoast Family Promise has been helping local families with children who are experiencing homelessness. They have had over a 90% success rate in keeping families who enter the program housed permanently, which is a big deal. Families are sheltered in a safe, clean, and child-appropriate place. Guests are provided with nutritional support, job support, financial planning and training, social work and counseling, housing search support, transportation, and assistance accessing all the other services. And then they are supported for 2 years after finding stable housing to make sure that they have the resources to remain housed and safe. South Church has provided volunteers for Seacoast Family Promise for 15 years, and currently our volunteers are working to provide a week of dinners 3 times a year in April, July, and November. Mostly with a partner, and you prepare the food in your comfort of your own home and drop it off. South Church has been relying on a small, strong core of volunteers to do this work. Also, some people help with office work and collecting clothes and school supplies, but right now is in need of some additional help. More hands and hearts to help us. It's a wonderful way to live your values out, to have an immediate and meaningful impact for homeless children in our community and their families, and to have some fun. There are some email addresses that you can contact to find out more about this. I'm not going to read them because you're not sitting with a notebook, but if you see me afterwards, I'll be happy to give you the contact information. And you can donate in several different ways. You can use our mobile app, Vanco, if you've downloaded that onto your mobile device. You can give via the donate link on our website or by sending a check in the mail to 73 Court Street in Portsmouth. And of course, you can use the collection plate, which I believe is about to be passed, and the offering will be gratefully received. In the words of the Reverend Kayla Parker, may we give in love and in hope.
a moment just to center into the beauty of this space, into the loveliness of this warm and precious time together for memories and experiences shared, and for gifts given, and for the talent that is here. I am ever, ever so grateful, and I invite you to have that same feeling of gratitude. It's a tough, tough world we are living in right now, and what makes it better is knowing that we are not alone, that we have people of similar thoughts and feelings and senses of justice and compassion and care. And when we gather here, it is an opportunity to be reminded of the goodness that is in life, and that the goodness that is life is seen in each and every one of us that we connect with. And that is the most precious thing that we can take here and that we can leave here with, the preciousness of the presence of one another and the sense that we are not alone. So I would invite anyone who has concerns to share them in the chat line, and also to write them on the pastoral card, or to see me or a pastoral associate, so that you know that you are not alone, that we are hearing you and will be with you no matter what is going on. And now I would invite anyone who cares to come forward in silence and light a candle of joy or concern. I invite you to come down the side and up the center, light a candle with a thought that needs to be held in this space, knowing that you're held in my heart. It was March 15th, 2020. I arrived at 9 a.m. for an introduction to you while recording live from the sanctuary, having made the decision with Kirsten and getting agreement from board members Janice and Andrew just 2 hours after being hired to not meet in person for worship because of COVID, which seemed a little contagious. Well, frankly, I was in a very weird state of mind. I'd been told that Alice, a trainer, was going to present a message, and all I needed was to introduce myself in a sanctuary with no people. It seemed surreal. Beginning a ministry without seeing faces in a place where I knew no one. Oh, how strange. Alice's message was called Growing Up and Coming of Age at Age 75. And the message is about cycles of life, the spirals of interconnections, beginning, endings, and middles. It wasn't totally about loss and grief, but she sure addressed how to have good leave takings. Her message on my starting day is not lost on me today as we prepare for my leave taking. One of the questions that she addressed that continues to inform my thinking is, where does the energy go when one is no longer physically present? She was asking this as she was thinking about her beloved spouse, Michael, at his dying time. That question is a universal one. And I paraphrase her question again. Does our energy become part of the creative energy that permeates all things? Well, my answer and my belief is yes. Yes. And that is the energy that I stepped into in March that morning. An energy that is you and all the forebears and all the beloveds that have ever been here, past, present, and future. All that creative energy is the intangible source that keeps us connected in spite of COVID, in spite of threats to our democracy, in spite of challenges to civil and personal and female reproductive rights, in spite of needless gun violence and a war. This energy is what I felt when I came to you in what was supposed to be an 12-week time period while you searched for another interim. Boy, am I ever so blessed that 28 months later, I'm still with you. I was living in Leominster, a little over an hour from here. I'd soon be heading to the summer trailer in Salisbury, Mass., so commuting for a few weeks was doable. And how things change. 2+ years later, I'm living in Kittery. The house in Leominster is sold, and I am taking the next 3 weeks to be with you and for us to model, practice, and engage in what I have come to call good leave taking. I had not yet Myra, hadn't met her yet, though I knew of her from Arthur, who was on my hiring team. I just met Andrew Cease, Janice Wallach, Bill Bloom, David Drucker, Kim and the staff, Kirsten Hunter, Jen Del Deo, Christine Sawyer, and the official greeter of all people, Jen Leiden. However, I hardly expected that at that first worship service I would watch Jen Leiden, Jen Del Deo, and Kirsten crawling around on their hands and knees in this sanctuary, trying to manage 3 computers, record live something called Zoom, which failed and cut out about a quarter of the way through. I didn't know what Zoom was, and I certainly did not imagine I would become intimately connected with Zoom and all its possibilities, and there are many, and the ways that it has revolutionized our lives. I hardly even understood about bandwidth, but Kirsten and Jen soon figured out with Bill Blum that we needed more of it to successfully broadcast from the sanctuary. And this was a feat. I must tell you, the speed at which this decision was made to bring in bandwidth is amazing for congregations, and simply amazing for a congregation facing all that it was. A not good ending to an interim ministry, unexpected departure of long-serving ministerial team, a pending worldwide pandemic, unprecedented anxiety in a time of intense unknowingness, and the day-to-day concerns that an overworked staff were trying to manage with major questions around COVID. What was safe? Who was safe? How could we assure as much as possible the safety of everyone and at the same time maintain a sense of community and a sense of connection? And there I was meeting Susan Adams, Cynthia Chattis, Jonathan Booth, Joanne Connolly, all who had come in that morning to present their gifts of music, and along with Laurie Bilby, who was that worship associate. We were in a church building I had never, ever set foot in, ever, at a time of great unknown and turmoil. Yet we all had one wish only, and that was to make connections with South Church folk who were hurting and alone and struggling and in need of having their spiritual lives tended to. It meant the world to me that a couple of you snuck into the church that morning also. And the irony is not lost that Laurie Bilby will be the worship associate with me on my last Sunday, July 31st, as she was the worship associate on that first Sunday. Also, something else that has not escaped my attention was, as I was sitting and writing my sermon, my 2 canaries and 4 finch house birds were singing away in the background, a noise that became very familiar to you when we realized that the safest way to bring services was for each person to pre-record on Zoom. It's pretty hard to say to a bird, shush. We realized that we had to pre-record on Zoom and that the staff had to learn how to meld the parts together. I know you know this, but it really deserves mention. The staff, specifically Kirsten and Jen Leiden, did a deep dive and a quick study learning how to provide worship in a cohesive and coherent manner. And they did this without giving up other job duties. In fact, taking on more as COVID ravaged the world and required constant shifting of duties. And Jen Del Deo, our beloved storyteller, rapidly began exploring how to bring religious education to our youth who were in the midst of this COVID crisis and its anxiety facing them each day of their lives. So this Sunday begins the first of 3 intentional leave-taking messages. My final service will be July 31st, as Reverend Ellen begins with you on August 1st. We all deserve a good leave-taking process. So I thank my team, Rita, Kimberly, Claudia Green, Jane Kavanaugh, Angela Newberry for being thought partners in order to make it so. We thought there were some important elements involved in this and some questions to engage in. And they are, what have we done personally as a congregation in this time of great unknowns? And certainly, what have we accomplished over a 28-month time period? I also wanted to take time to acknowledge the emotions and reactions to this, such as the excitement as you will be welcoming in your new spiritual leader, and some of the sadness and anxiety as I leave, but which is always present in times of transition. And I was thinking about so many stories as we transition from one time to another, and next week, Kirsten and I will be sharing some of those stories. I've been recording many of the accomplishments as well, and they'll be shared with the board, with Reverend Ellen, with the Committee on Ministry, and with you. Some I outlined a little bit in my June newsletter, and some will share more in the future. So let me just give you 3 areas of accomplishment, and believe me, I did not do these alone. It was the connections, the ability to rely on another, that covenant of trusting relationships built on an understanding that we are all committed to a larger mission and vision that made these possible. The first area, of course, is worship. From lying on the floor recording a service with 3 computers, trying to get them in sync, to now offering live and live stream services where we can have people engaged with us as they watch from the safety of their home, both near and far. What a gift. Tech support and offering proper protection of copyrighted materials. And then to introducing the candles of joy and concern, which I assume is meaningful and offers spiritual connection. The worship associates, incredibly able to pivot, to learn, and continue to offer meaningful words. I thank each and every one of you over this period of time who steadfastly remain committed to offering quality services. And Laura, Myra, and now Brett, who arranged for speaker coverage in the pulpit when I was halftime, and then when I'm out of the pulpit. Thank you. They have, without doubt, brought forward some incredible speakers. The second accomplishment is the shift to an executive staff leadership shared ministry model that included recognizing Kirsten's gifts, skills, talents, experiences, and having that become part of the institution by introducing bylaws and policies that formalized a systemic change along with a collaborative governance task force that will further look at this governance model. It is, our executive leadership is cutting edge in the UUA, and it has proven invaluable in offering the ministry that is available here in all of its forms. We are a whisper away from an organizational chart, be still my beating heart, that outlines relationship, accountability, and clarity so that you and any new member and Reverend Ellen can have a picture of all the interrelationships and groups that make up South Church. I am an institutionalist as well as a person who likes the individual work. I want to make sure when I leave here that this institution is strong and that it is firm and that the institution is guided by practices and principles that are anti-oppressive, anti-racist, and are able to bring together a community so that it can function in the best way possible to bring its message out into the world. And the third and final accomplishment is related to staff. We completed, approved, and have an up-to-date personnel handbook to give to any new employee, and that will guide the board and the staff in making decisions that meet fair standard employment practices. Thank you, Alyssa. Staff meetings are held on a regular basis, most often weekly, and include a deeper sharing of both personal and professional needs and concerns and ways to accomplish our task. And we also have been discussing and deepening the staff knowledge of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and deepening a commitment to anti-racism, anti-oppression, values and practices in every single thing that we as a staff do to minister to and with you. Evaluations and job descriptions have been updated and are based on mutual understanding and assessment that reflects both South Church and UU values. There's more, but I don't want to take more time. I instead want to allow time for you to talk. So I'm going to invite you to break into groups, and 8 or so per group, 2 or 3 pews together. And I'm going to have the help of Kimberly and Carol and Joanne and Lance and Kirsten to join groups with you. Their purpose is not to facilitate the group. Their purpose is to help jot down ideas that you might have so that we can capture things for the future and maybe incorporate them into next week's sermon. You're going to have a piece of paper and a pencil, and if you don't have a recorder with you, then I would ask that a person in the group do that and then hand that in after. Also important for me is if there's unfinished things for me to know about. I've got 2 weeks, right? But if there's unfinished things, jot them down so I can do what I can do and make sure that Reverend Ellen knows of concerns that are lingering. And those of you at home also, please make some notes in the chat. And Alice is up there, and Alice will be jotting down some notes for us. Right, Alice? Thank you. Okay. So I have my little chimes, and we are going to have some music to transition us into groups, and then I'll call you back. Find time and a group to sit with. And even if you're new, we have questions for you.
and talks. Turn and talks.
Turn and talk. Minimum.
Minimum. Feel free to talk.
Diversity in types of music. Keep up the diversity in types of music.
I feel so connected to even if they were following up was amazing. So many sources of
Especially like last week when you guys were doing it, I really
That went on the tune that morning,
it sounded so clean.
or the day before, where it was.
Yeah. It's tough for me to
What is the next question? So we have what feels important to lift up, what questions or hopes do you have for us going forward, and if you're new, how did you find us, and what are you doing? Yeah.
It is always, always such a delight to look out and see you talking with one another. And I don't even care what you're talking about. Just that you're sharing and being with one another and building that sense of connection and community. What a beautiful thing. All right. So make sure that you either pass your piece of paper off to Carol or Kimberly, or you can leave it in the pew and we'll come by and pick it up. I really, really thank you for sharing your thoughts. Okay. We have closing music. Where do we come from? You may have heard the choir singing that before. We're going to
sing this one again for you, and please join us. And this chant, this hymn, will be with us the next 2 weeks as well. It's a great theme, I think. And we may get into a more intentional arrangement, but for right now, you'll hear each theme come in one at a time. Pick one, jump around if you feel like it, try them all, and we'll sing it together. Where do we come from?
So let's see if the candle will go out more cooperatively than it went on. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I want to share some words of benediction that Laurie Bilby shared during her first service back in March of 2020. It's a series of quotes from the Tiny Buddha website. Life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you give, you get. What you see in others exists in you. Radiate and give love, and love will come back to you. Go forth this day and live those words of wisdom, hardly tiny words. Go in peace.